Hi, I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and this is Rockin the Love. Welcome, everybody. How are we doing today?
We are so excited to be here with you today that it's March. Can you believe
Yep.
it?
We've marched forward into the first week of March 2024. Ah, so this
Yeah,
is
so many
the
things are happening and time seems to be going so fast. But thank God we're together. So we're glad you're here. Make sure to say hello in the chat and let us know where you're here from. And we see John out there. I always feel like that cartoon show. I see John. I see Susie. Hi, Betty. I
Hi,
remember
Shay.
that. Hi, Shay. Welcome. Good to see you there. We are so excited today because we have a very special guest, don't we?
We do. We absolutely do. And, you know, um, when we talked with her about coming on the show, she gave us so many different topics, we got confused. There were too many things that she knows a lot about.
We're easily
So
confused as well.
we, well, that, well, that's a given. Um,
So, our guest is the lovely Reverend Ursula Lentini. And we're going to be hearing more from her in a little bit. We're going to start with the age of Aquarius. I'm leaving blank space because I know everybody's singing along.
well, I think
Um,
we had women in the age of Aquarius. Is that right?
yes, women in the
Okay.
age of Aquarius. I know. Yeah. Okay, that's a whole different topic, but I don't even know really what the age of Aquarius is. I mean, I do a little bit because I looked it up, but other than, having sung that song all my life, harmony and understanding, you know, right? I
Yep.
don't
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
So
we're going to learn a little bit more today, I suspect, and why it's important and what it means to the world and what it means to our relationships, how we all get along with one another. Because that's what
absolutely.
we're here to talk about. We talk about relationships every week here on Rockin the Love. And do you want to give our disclaimer?
But
Okay, I'll give it. We're a married couple, and you might witness that at some point. Um, so, um,
right
I
about
mean,
now, because I'm doing everything in my power not to talk about how your hair's sticking out on one side. Like, what's up with that? Yeah, it's
what?
definitely haircut time. Thank God I'm on my way to see you. So I think it's the only way he gets a haircut is if I'm standing right next to him threatening to do it myself. Anyway, so what he was about to say is that we are a married couple. However, we live in two different parts of the planet. So currently, I am in Carlsbad, California, and he is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so our journey of having a relationship long distance and from all different places and all those things is part of the motivation for what we're doing.
You know, we started long distance, and then
We
we
did.
find ourselves 20 plus years in long distance. So it's kind of an interesting movement in terms of being in relationship and how that works and how it shifts and changes over time and how you learn about one another. So anyway,
But basically that's the whole premise of the show is that we're always in relationship to everything and everyone. And so it's a constant journey what we learn about each other and about relating.
yeah, I sat with someone just the other day and um, realized that I was really struggling with my relationship with myself. So, I mean, there's no escaping it. You can't cut everyone else out and pretend that you don't have to deal with relationship.
Well, yes, and at the end of the day, we're the only one here, right? So
I know, get all metaphysical on me. I
that's
know.
all we can do is has struggle with ourselves. But no struggle today. Tell me about your week. How was your week, Mr. Olmsted?
Wow, it was a busy week. There was a lot happening, and it was good. And like I said, I got a chance to really sit down and be with what was going on for me. It's warmed up here, and buds have started to come out on the trees.
When you say warm up, what does that mean? Like 60?
Yeah, we've hit 70. It's high 70, but it's more like today it's like low 60s or 50s. But we did have big buds starting to come out on the trees. I went to an opera. I haven't been to an opera in I don't know how long. I went to one this last week. Don't tell anyone, but I've decided that other people can go watch operas. That's good. It was a really fascinating story and a great story, and I would actually love to read the book sometime. I just somehow don't relate to the how operas are translated to people, how the information is given to us through an opera. Doesn't I like movies, I like books, I like things, but they're harder for me to grasp.
You like musicals too.
I like me. I could, yeah, a lot of musicals I like too. Yeah, it's just something, I don't know if it's because, when I was in like third grade, I had to go to the Mark Taper Perform and see Hansel and Gretel. I don't really know what it's from, but
you were
did you do that? Did they take you there?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't see Hansel and Gretel though, but yeah, I saw Carmen. Which
really?
Opera. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, we saw the kids thing.
No.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
so anyway, so there was that. And what else? Anything else exciting? Just we had special friend, Reverend Dr. David Alexander was in town and actually was blessed our center with his message on Sunday. And the fun part about that was people really appreciated it. The funny part is we've really been working on getting our service at our center kind of chunked down to where it really works. Yeah, streamlined in part because there's another service later. And so we have to honor time. And so the most common comment about Reverend David was, yeah, he ran overtime, but he was worth it.
Well, that's good from your congregation because they don't like long things, but that's great.
Yeah, so that was kind of funny. So anyway, so what's up? What's happening? I know you and I are trying to figure out timing and visits and all that this week. We've been working on that. What are you up to?
Working on that, and I feel, I love to travel. You know that. And however, I feel like I can't get settled, and I don't know if it's because, I'm down here, which is great, but, and I'm from Southern California, but I'm from LA. So it's like, I'm not really, if I was in LA, I might feel settled because then my people would be around. But here, I feel like I'm just trying to get to my people, whether they're in Northern California or LA. It's still a to-do. It's still something I have to go to. It's not like I can just call someone and go to lunch or something like that. So I just feel like I'm not settled. And once I get back here, then I'm like, always like, okay, I got to get some things done. And then before I know it, it's time to figure out how we're going to see each other. And so I'm struggling with that on the level of like, I sit here and I go, okay, Robyn, I do the metaphysical thing. Is that the truth? Do you have to feel like that? What's happening? And I'm like, yeah, it's the fucking truth. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's really hard to get anchored in something. So, so that's where I'm at. But however, I did have a really great weekend and got a lot of things done, which helped me feel that way. And now I only have like 3 huge to-do things on my list. So, and I'm hoping I can to-do them before I see you, so that we can really ta-da together. Feel that I find to define romantic as like be doing work together. Maybe like at a Pete's Coffee if we're lucky. But
oh yeah,
that's
like last week when we were away at the conference last week, and somebody said something to us about possibly offering a workshop, and oh my gosh, we got really excited then. And I was like, oh wow, we could do this and we could do that, and what about the other thing, and when are we going to talk again? And we're kind of, well, Robyn describes us as workshop geeks, because the other thing we like to do is go to workshops and then sit there and go, yeah, well, they're really focused on this and they got that part right. Wow, did you ever see that part before? That was new.
It's true. It's true. All right. So that's our week. That's so great. And now it's time for the good news. And this is our segment where we tell good news, because it's so easy to. Oh, there's Gil's hand.
Hi.
Oh, Michael Mangus, producer Michael Mangus, help me, brother, help me. Oh, at least sit back there and pray for him. I can't take it. We're trying to train him to be camera ready, but he keeps putting his hand in the camera. All right, so it's time for the good news. And the good news is where we talk about what's good in the world, because there's so many things that people can focus on that aren't working, and yet there's so much beauty and grace and love happening. So what do you got for us this week, Gil?
Wow. Well, I found something really quite fascinating. There are these ancient, if you will, metal discs called Islamic astrolabes. Astrolabe. I don't know how they pronounce it, but it's Astro, Labe. And the thing that's really fascinating is these things trace back to around the 11th century. But they found some of them, and they have Aramaic writing, and they have Hebrew writing and inscriptions, and they have various other things on them. And the discs were used for all kinds of things in terms of predicting astrological things, for helping to keep the 5 points of prayer, 5 times of prayer for Islamic people on task, if you will, so they could tell where they were each day. Just really fascinating. It's like it refers to it as the smartphone of the time, that it just did so many different things. But the interesting piece is that these were used by Muslims and Jews and Christians, and the intersection of all the Abrahamic religions and peoples of those religions that actually worked together and communicated together at that time.
Wow. So
I'm really interested. I would be interested to see more about these and how people were using them together, and how the one instrument was able to support all of them. And I just think about our world today and some of the stuff going on, and it reminds us that it doesn't have to be that way, and it hasn't always, quote, been that way. That there are ways for us to get along and work together, and we've done it and proven it.
Yeah.
So, there's the picture. Thank you. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Very cool. That's very cool. Well, my good news story I decided to do in honor of National Women's Month, a story about women. And this is about how researchers have discovered a gender gap between men and women when it comes to working out. And it favors women who are not, who normally don't exercise as often as men. So they analyzed data from 412,000 adults in the US and showed that females get more heart health benefit from exercise than males. So they can get the same benefits from exercise as men, but with less effort. And this was
Okay. I've been telling you all along it's unfair.
No.
It's easier for women.
No, I was going to start this out with this is like the one thing that women can claim. Okay, so this professor who discovered this, that is director of preventive cardiology at Cedars in LA. She explained that women have historically lagged behind men in how often they exercise. And the beauty of the study just shows that they get more out of each minute of moderate to vigorous activity than the men. And they analyzed 22 years of data, and it revealed that they, even though they exercise less, they have greater heart gains. And and for all adults engaging in any regular physical activity compared to being inactive, mortality risk was lower. And mortality risk was reduced by 24% in women and 15% in men. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a lot difference.
Yeah. They also studied like moderate to vigorous physical activity like walking and cycling, and found that men reached their maximal survival benefit from doing this level of exercise for about 5 hours per week, while women achieved the same from only 2.5 hours per week.
Okay, well, we got to get the show over because I got to go take a bike ride. Apparently, I'm behind for the week. That's really interesting. That's
really interesting. Yeah,
there's that much of a difference.
Yeah, it's with exercise. Like women would exercise 140 minutes a week, while men needed to perform twice as much at 300 per week to get the same benefits. So this doctor who did the study is hoping that obviously this will also encourage women who aren't exercising to go out and exercise, since it's, they don't have to do as much.
They don't have to do as much as they thought. Yeah, really. Yeah, that makes total sense. Makes total sense.
Look at Shay. She's out there representing. She's on the treadmill right now. Way to go. And now you can get off earlier if you want. Because you don't have to hang in there the whole way through. So that's great. So that's super great. So I just thought I'd share that with you. That is our good news of the week. So we're going to take a little break and allow you to get whatever you need to sit down and enjoy our upcoming guests, and be right back here on New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment, and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
we're back on Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil. And it is time to move into our topic for the day and our special guest, whom we're very excited to have with us today, the Reverend Dr. Ursula Lentine. Thank you for joining us today. She is, wow.
You're muted.
Oh, she is muted. There she goes. Yeah, there's so many things that I discovered that you do. And I was like, wow, look at all that. Very accomplished.
It's a lot.
You've been busy.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, Ursula and I met 15 years ago. Is that what we decided?
That's what
My
Robyn
gosh.
is now, yeah.
Yeah, we worked together with some high school youth, and that was like a whole lifetime ago, I think. So I'm excited to hear about what you've been doing and what's going on, and to hear about this topic that's so pertinent today about women, that we're entering into the month of Women's Month. So we're talking about women in the age of Aquarius.
That's right. That's right. So we were talking a little pre-show, like, what is the age of Aquarius anyway? And technically, right, we know the song, and like you said, Robyn, everybody just wants to sing the song. They knew it was coming, so they prepped, right? So this is I can see you guys have appreciation for rock and roll and the great music on your intros and all of that. It's interesting that we know something's coming through music, because that's a great way to transfer energy, is through sound, right? Genesis in the beginning was the sound. Age of Aquarius is the beginning of a 2,000-year cycle. So the last cycle was from 1 to 2000, year 1 to year 2000. That was Age of Pisces. So just like we have our different sun signs, and then we go through the year, and, like now we're in this sign and now we're in that sign. This is a 2000 cycle where now we're in the sign of Aquarius. And I'm not going to do all the astrological, and then when the Pluto's and Jupiter in the fourth house, it's like, I don't know all that. Like, just give me the facts. What does that mean to me? So Age of Aquarius basically is the rising of the divine feminine within all of us. Mm. So within women, where the dismantling of the patriarch system is down now. We're so happy it's our turn right now. We get to mess up or do better, whatever is the case. And we're seeing in Europe, there's a lot of women in leadership there that are presidents of the country. There's more women in powerful positions in corporations and leadership and organizations. We're going to see more and more and more of that. And it's not that the men, did a bad job. It's just, it's our turn and we're going to do things differently. There's never going to be a committee and the women are like, yeah, war. We think war is the answer. Right, Robyn? Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, no.
Because we're mothers, right? We're compassionate. We know that war means sons and husbands and fathers. And that's not a choice we're going to make. So how are we going to run the world differently through the divine feminine? And for men, it's about finding that balance between the masculine and the feminine within themselves. So it's not like men are going to start curling their hair with, curling irons and wearing makeups, even though that's a trend. But it's going to be more about, how can I lead with compassion? How can I think of other people more? Like being more inclusive, wonder how other people are feeling. How can I slow down? How can I be kinder to myself instead of really hard on my own, self, and things like that. So I think we're going to have more of a gentler approach to living, and more inclusive and more conversations like, how shall we do this instead of my way or the highway.
Right. So it sounds like it's really, I mean, people are like, when people say getting in touch with their feminine, but men are really getting in touch, kind of cracking open that space. And I know I've been having a conversation with some male friends too about, like more of that, even though we've talked about it for a long time, more of that realization. realization and recognition that they don't relate the same as we do. They don't have friendships. They don't call up a guy and go, hey, I'm feeling down, let's go to lunch, or let's eat a pint of ice cream or whatever it is. They don't have that. It's not the way they operate.
And it's been trained, socialized, no crying, suck it up, figure it out. So
you're the man, be the man.
Yep. And so there's masculinity within their structure. Their brains are different than women's. They're different. Priorities are different. So men are hardwired for protection and providing. So that's their, like, they can't help it. Like, if they see somebody in need, like, they'll just go help them. Like, they just can't help it. Where a woman will go, is this safe? Is this okay? And women, we can focus on several things at the same time. Not that we're multitasking, but our awareness is diverse. So if you think about a mother, hundreds of years ago, she's got the fire going, she's got cooking going, she's got the 3 kids over there, she's listening, is anything coming out of the wood, she's looking at the day, how much sunlight do I have? And right. The man's focus, he's like, okay, catch the dinner tonight, catch the dinner. If women were to go out into the woods and hunt, we would be like, oh, look at the butterfly, there's the berries, and I could just trim this little tree and it would be more pretty. Like, we would. So we're wired differently, and we're supposed to be doing our job naturally. So, right. And I think we're just so much patriarch and, power over that. As that disperses and as COVID has happened, everything's going to balance out, and we're just going to figure out who we are in the collective individually.
So it brings up something really interesting to me, and that is how much of, how long might it take, and how much do women have to do to really dismantle the amount of patriarchal control that has been implemented, that has been placed over them. I just was listening to someone the other day and talking about all the different ways that women have been set up to believe that they're not enough.
Yeah.
You're not pretty unless you're wearing makeup. You're not this unless you're that. You need to be sure you show up, but you have to be really nice, and all these kinds of things. And there have been all ways that, I don't know if men needed to do that to make themselves feel okay.
That's a part of it. Yeah. Yes.
Or what? know.
Yeah, it's that power over. And why do we do that? Because we're afraid. So I used to be really mad at corporations and all that power, top down kind of control and all of that. And I thought, this is, and then after, a while, I started understanding, they were groomed for their positions, because when I talk to the CEOs, they have father issues because their dad wasn't around to show them love and support. So they said, well, I'll just become something really powerful and important, and then he'll appreciate me, because and then they never do. But in the meantime, he's got the top office and the car and the lake house and all the other things. But they also suffer from imposter syndrome, because they've been pushed into being who they aren't naturally are. So they've been groomed and programmed as much as everybody else. So now I have a greater compassion for all of us, that, whoever's running the show, they need to cut it out, because they're not doing a good job.
Well, yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, I want to speak for you, Gil. Sorry. But I do. I mean, because so much of the time, like, we've done so much work in workshops, and one of the things we came up with in a workshop was, one of the things that Gil really needs and likes and, nurtures his spirit is when somebody reinforces and says, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good, that's a great idea. that makes him feel like, and it just speaks so much to, as ministers and people in leadership also, how many times have I sat with various ministers that are like, I feel like an imposter, because because what we're talking about, like, they're speaking, God speaking through them. And yet when there's the appearance that God is not, like when they're being their, normal quote unquote self, they're like, oh, this isn't it. I'm an imposter. I can't be one if I'm the other. So I think that's so important.
So our friend John says, it's a rich topic, and I feel toxic masculinity springs from the boy wounded bully archetype, and women stand in their power in the queen archetype. I'm speaking from a traditional Jungian psychotherapeutics viewpoint. Man, John, can you put some smaller words in there? But I think it's really interesting. I mean, because this patriarchal society has, while it has truly, I think, really repressed women and taken away their power and all of that, the other side of it is, I think it did the same thing to men.
That's what I'm saying. We've all been messed with, and we're just saying, I'm not doing that anymore. You know that old movie, I don't remember what it's called, Network or something, where they're yelling out the window, I've had enough. I'm not going
to tell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yeah. So I think it's just a part of the age of Aquarius, right? It's a cycle. It's a cycle. Just like people, we're a certain age right now. So things that were important to us 20 years ago, like, who cares? So in my maturity, I'm understanding that compassion and connection are really more important than, showing off or proving or whatever. It's just calming down, and we're really connecting. And I think this whole pandemic deal, even though, I don't trust like where it came from and all that stuff, I see that the backfire is everybody slowed down. Everybody got true to themselves. Everybody started understanding like, hey, I don't want to work for the man anymore. I want to work for myself, and I want to be in charge of my life. And life is precious and life is short. How come I'm wasting it, working? Like, when's the last time I really felt happy? So I think the COVID and pandemic and, go to your room, like go live in your house and stay there for a while. I think that really served humanity. And now we're starting to soften and be with each other more and more. And this year is going to be a tremendous year of change. And I think in spite of change, or in the face of change, we have to get so real with ourselves, because whatever's consistent needs to stay, right? So self-respect. So say the world starts falling apart, but you don't have self-respect in place, you're going to find it real fast. Otherwise, you're going to be, thrown down the stream of everything else and everybody else the way that's going. So us as independent thinkers, metaphysicians, it's time. Like, our time is now to lead and to speak and to inner resource, understand what the difference is between the chaos in the world. And then the other thing with the patriarch system falling out, we were told that is more important than this. So follow the rules, behave, do the right thing, don't rock the boat. And now that's starting to collapse across the board: education, finances, government, all of that. So the power over and the authority over, we're like, no, I'm not buying this anymore. No. Now we're exploring, who am I really? And I call it the silence within that's beating my heart and breathing my lungs. And as we slow down and start discovering that and removing the blocks that, are causing the pain and suffering, I think that's the biggest deal there. And I do subconscious work. So when Reverend John was talking about the archetypes, we go inside and we talk to different parts of ourselves. So if someone's very critical, they're not critical. They have one part of them, one aspect of them that's running criticism that they inherited from their ancestors, right. Because at some time and place in history, it was important to be highly critical because you could die.
Yeah, all of the platforms have served us until now.
Yes.
You know, there's nothing that shouldn't have happened or it shouldn't have been that way.
Up until now.
Up until
You know,
now.
that idea that it is all, there's nothing that's been wrong. It's just that I think we grab onto some things and we take them on and we begin to believe that particular thing is the truth, instead of that's just a small little portion of how you might deal with your world.
Yeah.
You know, and so and yes, it's all been pointing outwards. You know, how do we deal with all the things that are outside of us? How do we make everyone happy out there? How do we do that? You know, and when you were talking about the pandemic, and I was thinking, you know, people were like, yeah, I want to work for myself and stuff. And people were also even just like, you know, I don't have to spend half my day commuting to work. I could just work for you and get the job done here. You know, and not even having to go to taking it on for themselves. It was just I can create space in my life in a whole new way. So, you know, thinking about that, and as women are moving forward and taking on more roles, and we just witnessed that at the Centers for Spiritual Living conference, having the 3 top positions in the whole organization held by women. See. And them creating collaboration and having an intention that was, for lack of better, softer and gentler, and attempting to be more inclusive. Not that anyone else wasn't, but I think on the backs of everything that's happened, they're moving into this new place, and we're all beginning to understand it and receive it. So that's going to create a lot of both opportunities, and is that going to create pressure on women to be stepping into these kinds of leadership roles?
That's a very interesting question. I think because women have suffered, right? Just think of one lady who's been in a suppressive relationship, right, where the man's kind of abusive and narcissistic, and, you know, you can't do this and don't wear that, and, you know, micromanaged and scared to, you know, redecorate or do anything in her house, right? And then she's finally like one day, like the movie, like, I've had enough, I'm not gonna take it anymore. And she's like, I'm out. It's terrifying because we've been, like Robyn was saying, so conditioned, right? And so programmed to be the good and the thing and the fit and the whatever, that we bought into that, and we were passionate about it. And we were like, okay, I'm being a great mom, and I'm being a great wife, and I'm, you know, keeping the house clean, and I'm doing all the things, and I'm doing it. I'm, you know, really good at it. And then when all that blows up, we're like, well, who am I now? But you know, I'm free from that, all that stuff that was making her crazy. So now she's free, but she's scared. And this is the deal here. Women need to be gathering with other women, because we can say, yeah, you know, fantastic. Yeah, me too. Oh, okay, I get it. Or that's a great idea. Or no, you're doing fabulous. So we love to have feedback and support with women. And all we have to do is sit with each other. Like, we can have a cup of tea and feel so satisfied and so connected and so relieved that it will feed us for days. So women gathering and being seen and heard is going to be the next trend. And then once we feel safer and more grounded, like you were saying, Robyn, just to be more like, okay, now I know who I am. You know, this is my truth, and this is what I'm excited about. And then other women are like, you can make a business out of that. You know, you could do, like, go ahead and do that thing and do a workshop on that. And then we support each other, and then we become empowered, and our natural leadership, our natural traits and gifts start coming out. And then that's where we step into leadership. But we have to do a lot of healing before we do that.
Well, and as I'm hearing you say this, I mean, yes, we're focusing on women in the age of Aquarius, but I think that's also true for men, Absolutely. And especially men in our movement that are more in touch with that spiritual side and those feelings, because, you know, so many men I know in this movement that are, they're in touch with their feelings, and then they get to a point where they don't know what to do with their feelings.
Yes.
And so like those that would be fed by that kind of connection need to do that group thing, or do that, male bonding, or, and what's interesting is, even though they, on some level, men need to find that male bonding in the woman-esque kind of way, generally, these men are the ones that rail against, I don't want to go to a men's retreat. I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want to be with men.
Right.
So it's really, it's like you have to be willing to let go of something.
Yes. And just like us having our identity, in the things that we were doing good, men also have their identity. Like, I know how to be the boss, and I know how to shut down my feelings, and I know, but that's not working for them either, because there's a lot of alcoholism and, just checking out, and everybody's on prescription and all of that stuff. And those are coping mechanisms. They're not socializing. Right? Everyone says like, oh, it's social. No, everybody's coping. Like if you go to any kind of restaurant or any social, a party or whatever, everybody's got a drink in their hand. And I'm like, because we all feel insecure and vulnerable, and we don't want to be judged and kicked out and made fun of, and all the childhood stuff that happens. So we think we'll just drink this magic potion and it'll all go away.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't it? Anyway. Well, but, and even the jokes around that, that, gee, everybody in the bar looks like my friend after I've had 2 or 3 drinks, because the whole idea of those things that we use to cope is they help us just block out whatever it is that is making us afraid somehow. We somehow see over it, or it no longer matters to us, or whatever. And so suddenly we're not as afraid to approach someone we don't know. We're not as concerned about what they're going to think about us. We're not as, and so the shift is, how do we move to that same place, if you will, without having to cope, but actually being fully ourselves.
Right. I mean, for me, I'll send all people to AA programs, because they start conversations that they wouldn't have had, in a sober environment. So when we can sincerely and vulnerably talk to each other, like us right now, we're having a sincere, open conversation, and we already know we're going to like each other and support each other, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't have invited me here. So we create safe spaces. And I think when men get together with men, all they have to do is like, hey, we're going to, a group of guys are going to get together. And the best way is to do projects. Because then they work together, they feel like they're connecting, and, who's the alpha? Okay, I'm good at this, and I'll do that part, and you do that part. And then after that, they can relax and start having some sincere conversation. So for me, men doing activity is the way they bond, where for women, all we need to do is sit and be with each other, and, think magic just happens by itself. But I think if men could do service projects or whatever, and then sit down and start having some fireside chats, even if they have a beer in their hands, at least they'll be like, okay, well, let's just be together.
Right.
And then men, when they do get together, they're not all like, whoa, look at big, they're like, oh, I'm really suffering. I don't know what to do about my kids. And, and then this heart stuff starts happening, and then they have a real conversation. And that's where the men need to also be, because then when couples get together, gay, straight, whatever, we become more of ourselves to our partner.
Right.
John says, that's the work I'm doing now, and I'd love to see a CSL men's group online for the book Iron John and many others. I'm working on empowering my true king archetype, which was not awakened from my birth father, as my masculine rite of passage. So he's talking about some of the ideas that they're really, that we are dealing with some differences, obviously, but we have to be in touch with both our masculine and feminine, and all of that, something really interesting since I've arrived here in Albuquerque, been here almost 2 years now, is that I've observed that there are multiple men's groups
Good.
in our area that different people are a part of, and et cetera. And the thing that's happened is a women's group started at the center with some women, and it has just taken on a whole life of its own.
Yes.
But the men have already plugged into these various men's groups around town that are, outside, quote, outside the center.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just very interesting, though, the women have like just gone, yes, this is what we need.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had the same experience in Oakland. The women's group that started just is flourishing. It's huge. Yeah, people want to connect, and I think so much after COVID too.
Yes,
it's a good thing. I have always been a non-participant in all women things because I was like, I don't want to be with just women. I mean, I want, like when I was a kid, I would be like, I don't want to hang out with girls. All they do is talk about boys. I'd rather be playing sports with the boys and talking about sports. So I've always been like kind of whatever at a women's group, but I get it. I mean, I get it. I think it's a great time. And what really, it feels like I think it's interesting that the age of Aquarius started during the pandemic, right?
Yes.
It's like no mistakes there, right? To ease us.
Yeah, it's perfect timing. And Robyn, the joke on you is you're doing a woman's show.
Yes, I am. But it's not exclusive. It's Girls Behaving Metaphysically, which will be starting here on the network April 2nd. And we did it before. We're coming back. But yeah, it's just really that everything is metaphysical,
Total.
Like, because people are like, when they say, how can you do that and be spiritual? How could you do that at a church? How could you stop? Anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that Shay said, no more booze here. It's an entirely new experience of authenticity. And what I've heard a lot lately is a lot of people are stopping drinking.
Yes, I've heard it too.
I mean, I've seen my friends on Facebook are like on day 82 and blah, blah, blah. And, I was like, damn, I just started drinking. I didn't drink like for my whole life. I'm like, damn, this was fun for a minute. But anyway, I think it's really interesting, though, that people are really connecting with their place of wanting to be, sober and present for their life.
Yeah. And back to these coping mechanisms. So in the healing work I do, it's called internal family systems and parts work, and very much like the archetypes. And just to shout out with the Iron John, that stuff is incredible men's work. So if you ever come across the books, all of that stuff, because men are designed, wired differently. Women are wired differently. And when we start understanding our wiring, then we can be like, oh, that's natural for me, to be like this in this situation. Then we can feel more comfortable about who we are. And then the people who are non-binary also need to be with people who are like them, so they can understand, like, hey, I was wired with all this, stuff going on, and I don't fit in that category, don't fit in that category. But it's a hybrid of both categories, but it might be more masculine or more feminine, or, in the way I dress is this, and but there was that. So that's why people are trying to define, who they are when they're non-binary, because there's like 5 or 6 different ways of defining yourself.
Right.
What we're trying to do as a society is say, who am I? The age-old question, who am I and why am I here? Like, we're always changing, and there's going to be more change, and the change is going to be more rapid. So the more we understand the essence of who we are, that's not going to change, right? I'm a child of God, or, the silence within, or I'm God expressed as Ursula, as Robyn, as Gil. So when that, like, the one thing that I do know for sure, right? Because Oprah would ask that, like, what do you know for sure? So we hang on to the one thing, and then all the chaos and pandemic and pandemonium can take place, but we still are very solid in our faith, our religion, our family, like whatever's really important to each individual.
Right.
Can I talk about Supriya for a second here?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So as we settle down and become sober and just be more honest and sincere with ourselves, because like you guys were saying, you have a relationship with yourself. That's the work that I do, is help people get a better relationship with themselves. We will go into drugs and alcohol. We will go into workaholism. We will go into controlling other people, feeling powerful. And then also anxiety and depression. So you got the behavior, and then you got the emotions. So why are people so anxious? Why do they follow depression? And, you know, they just get stuck in those loops, is because down inside there was some kind of trauma. And Supriya is an organization that helps people that have had sexual trauma, and they offer free services online. They have groups that meet and retreats that you can go on online, like a 4-hour retreat. And then they have retreats that they're going to start bringing around to different cities. So they're calling it like a mobile retreat. And that is the deepest work that we can do, is heal our wounds, our deepest wounds, because we're living from them.
Yes.
And we don't realize that. So we can stop living from them. We can stop all the addiction and the chaos and the, you know, all of the confusion, and just go deep inside and heal that specific wound. Even if it's something that happened once, it doesn't even have to be like, you know, 2 years of this. No, one little incident can alter our purity and who we know ourselves to be. Because then we think, oh, you know, I'm just my body, and oh, you know, no one asked me, and oh, I've been violated, and oh, you know, I must be subhuman because, you know, they just took advantage of, they didn't respect me as a divine essence of a pure, innocent being, right? So that happens age 3, 4, and it's common. And all of that is really a way to free ourselves and liberate ourselves from being our true self of who we really were meant to be, who we're really designed to be, who are really can be courageous to say, you know, I'm going to do this thing, and it's inside of me and it wants to come out, instead of like, no, 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 it's not safe and I'm not okay, and the way we bury ourselves. So I just wanted to put that out there and let everybody know that that's a resource that's very, very helpful.
Yeah, and that's a topic that we're going to get more into, because we're going to have Reverend Ursula back next month and really dive a little deeper into that kind of trauma and in our lives and what we do with it and how we move from it. Right?
I just wanted to note what Shay said. She said, I did all of that. Now I'm allowing the trauma to be healed instead of suppressing it. It's rough and it's also working. I love myself now. And I think what I hear from that is that, as you said, Ursula, we end up, we always say it's where we're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, are we coming from love? Are we coming from this? And if we're coming from our wounds and not being able to love ourselves, then that's not going to be, that's not going to show up the way we want it to in the world. You know, and it's not going to make us feel as if we are being all we want to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Because we know somewhere deep inside we're like these amazing people. And then the people who love us, right? Like the people you love. Think about the people you love. You're like, they're in there. Like they're right in there. It's not so far away. You know, why don't they just, and then, you know, it's all this healing. And I want to point out, Shay also said, you know, I'm not boozing anymore. So see, they go hand in hand, because once we put down the device or the obstacle or the, you know, whatever it is that
covers it up.
Yeah, we put that down. Whoop, there it comes.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be alcohol. It can be food. It can be
work,
addiction. It can be work. It can be anything.
Devices.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And thank you so much for being here. I, you know, John said somewhere in there, he said, welcome, and you are awesome, and you are awesome. You are so awesome. I have to tell y'all, I saw her on YouTube and I was like, I love her. She's awesome. And then I like was doing something and she popped up on my LinkedIn. We'd actually chatted and I was like, I even know her and she's awesome. So I'm so excited to get to sit with you in this time and I can't wait till you come back.
Thank you. Me too. I really enjoy you guys. I feel like you're family to me.
Yeah, I do too. It's so funny because I said to Gil, do you know her? He's like, oh yeah, I know her. And he did the same thing like you, but it wasn't like, wait, let me think, which is unusual for him because maybe I know her. But he was like, yeah, I know her. I was like, so yeah, we're definitely connected, and I'm so glad to be here with you today.
And I just want to comment. I think that all of us represent that idea of continuing to find our way.
Yes.
You know, we're all continuing to find our way, and we intersect with different people, and all this stuff happens, and we continue to grow.
Yes.
And
like
so
that's saying, you know, we're walking each other home.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody. So just remember that we're walking each other home and do it with love. So rock the love this week, y'all, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.